Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 5, Episode 7. And if you're new here, we pick one game at random, invite a guest on to rate it in 5 different categories: story, gameplay, visuals, sound, and how well it aged. And we have a very special guest on with us, so I'll allow them to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I am Amber Wells. I'm 36 years old and a mother of 3. I am in Pennsylvania, and I am also the owner of BigModEnergy.
Awesome. And where can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Etsy, all those places.
Very cool. Yeah, you do some amazing work. Actually currently sent off an SP to you as we speak. I can't wait to see how that looks. All right, so we always ask our guests a couple of getting to know you questions, kind of like your introduction to gaming. You know, what console was it? How old were you? That kind of thing. Who'd you get it from?
So growing up, my brother was the one who always got, all the gaming consoles and whatnot. So I kind of just got like the leftovers. I never actually had a console of my own until the DMG. That was my first like actual personal console. So I love that thing. I had like Pokemon Red and Tetris and stuff like that I loved. But
Awesome.
I played Atari at my cousin's house. Good old Pitfall. And a lot of the NES is like where things started. But I think that like PS1 is where I really got like super into gaming.
Cool. Your story isn't that different than Yaiser's, essentially, where Yaiser's brothers kind of got all the gaming stuff and he kind of was left with all the scraps, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, basically.
It's kind of crazy. And I was the older I have 2 older sisters, but they didn't really get into games very much, but my parents were gamers. So I kind of just played whatever was in the house, but eventually my sisters kind of got out of gaming, and then me and my brother kind of shared everything. So it wasn't too bad for me, at least, but.
Oh, okay.
That being said, what are some of your favorite like genres of games to play?
I like RPGs and JRPGs, I think. I just really like the leveling system and the story and all that kind of thing. It's just you can spend hours and hours of gameplay and just really get like your money's worth out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. What would you say some of your favorite JRPGs are?
Well, it's kind of hard, like the line between RPGs and JRPGs, but like I like Dragon Quest and the Final Fantasies and like Legend of Dragoon, stuff like that.
Nice. I've heard great things about the Legend of Dragoon, and I really want to try it out. My buddy played it when we were kids, and we always used to go to his grandfather's house, and we used to allow ourselves an hour block of time between me, him, and his cousin, and we would always give him the first hour because he was always like so impatient, so he would just want to just get the game done immediately. So we'd be like, oh yeah, go ahead, you play the first hour, and then me and his cousin would always combine our 2 hours and play like a multiplayer game together, and then he would fall asleep during those 2 hours, and we would just play for the rest of the night. So all we had to do was outlast the hour. And
solid scheme.
Yeah, Legend of Dragoon, because he would always play a 1-player game and not include us, so that's what he got.
Yeah.
But Legend of Dragoon was one of those games that he would play for that hour, and it was just
you definitely got to play that one.
Yeah. What types of games have you been playing lately, or what games, I guess, in general, have you been playing lately?
Well, I've been pretty busy lately, but I was playing. There is a JRPG. I forget what it was called. It's like Blacksmith of the Sand Kingdom. It's fairly new. That was on PlayStation. I was playing Ghost of Tsushima again because that's one of my favorite games.
I've heard great things.
Yeah, I wanted to play that.
Yeah, you really should. It's a beautiful game. And I was playing Sons of the Forest with my oldest son.
Nice. That's awesome. Isn't gaming like with your kids so much better than you could ever imagine it being, really?
Oh yeah, it really is. It's nice to be able to share that with my kids and see them get, as excited as I am about gaming.
Yeah, for sure. Like I play games all the time with my 8-year-old, and she loves it. Currently, we're playing through some Earthbound. We wake up a little bit early before school every morning, and she plays like a half hour to an hour of it before school. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun just to do something kind of like have a routine, and we're playing like getting through the story of Earthbound is pretty fun. So yeah, and we're very excited for a new RPG that's coming out called Sea of Stars. Not sure if you're familiar, but
No.
yeah, it looks amazing, and we can't wait for it. So that comes out in August. So
I'll have to look into that.
yeah, we're getting very excited for it. Yeah, so you guys can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, Spotify if you're watching on YouTube, and YouTube if you're listening on Spotify. We also have a Twitch where we live stream every single game that we play for the show. And you can also find us on Patreon, where for as little as $2 a month, you can put your game on our Patreon list. And guys, guess what? Next week, we have a Patreon exclusive game. So yeah, so we will be picking from this much smaller list of Patreon games than our normal master list that has, a few hundred games on it at this point. So yeah, that's our Patreon. That's our Patreon ad for the week. Yaiser, how you doing, buddy? Doing good?
I'm doing all right, man.
That's awesome.
Hey, we're hanging in there.
Yeah. Have you heard of Tenchu 2 before this week?
I think so. I think I've heard of these games before. I've never played them though.
Never played them. I never played them either. When I looked up some gameplay about it before I started playing it, I was like, oh, okay. They're kind of like Onimusha. Kind of like I played Onimusha when I was a kid. And I was like, okay. It looks like it's kind of in the vein of Onimusha. That's cool. And Amber, obviously, you have some experience with this game, right?
Yeah, a lot.
You played this one a lot as a kid?
Yes, I did.
Did you play the first one as well?
I did.
Nice. Do you have a favorite between the two? Because I hear like people kind of go back and forth on that.
It's easy for me. Tenchu 2 is my favorite because Tenchu 2 is the only one that has mission editor and where you can actually make your own custom levels.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is cool. I looked into that a little bit. I didn't get a chance to really like dive into it myself, but I did see that you can do that, and I was like, that's super interesting. I don't know why. It just reminded me of like Tony Hawk, like how you can like edit your own like skate park and stuff like that. I'm like, that's cool that like back then you could edit your own missions and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very cool. Yaiser, roughly how many hours did you put into this game this week?
Less than 2, but more than 1.
Like 1.5.
About an hour and a half, yeah.
It's a really long way to say about an hour.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was almost 2, but I don't think so.
I put in probably almost 3. So obviously neither me or Yaiser had beaten this game. Amber, have you ever beat the game?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you beaten it multiple times?
Yes.
Nice. Very cool.
It was actually the first game that I actually beat like by myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Let's get into story. And Amber, since you are the resident expert on Tenchu 2, I'll have you kick off the story of the game.
Okay. I only played Ayame's version because I know that they show you 2 different versions between Rikimaru and Ayame. But essentially, like they're fighting, the Azuma ninjas are fighting against the Burning Dawn, and one of the main characters loses his memory, and then they kind of take him from the Azuma ninjas, and they form like his memory to think that he's on their side, and it's just like this epic battle between the 2.
Right. So what would you rate the story based on that?
I actually thought that the story was really good, especially for back then. I would probably give it like a 4 out of 5.
Okay. I'm not too far off there. I gave the story a 3. I didn't get all the way through it though, so that, obviously I couldn't judge it based on the entire like conclusion and all that. But what it was setting up for, I thought was fairly interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a third playable character in this game.
Well, he's not a playable character unless I'm wrong, like he gets unlocked in the end or something, but it's Tetsumaru. He's part of the Azuma Ninja.
Right, okay. And this is a prequel to the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I landed at around a 3. What about you, Yaiser?
So again, like you said, I didn't play it too much, but I thought what they were showing me was pretty cool. I like cutscenes that explain what the fuck's going on. And then I watched a YouTube video of like the plot explained, and it was actually it goes in pretty deep. It took him like a half hour just to tell me the story. So I gave it a 3.5. I thought it was pretty cool.
All right, cool. So I mean, we're all right around there, or right around like the same here. Averaged out to a 3.5 for the story. Not too bad. Let's head over to gameplay. What do you think about the gameplay, Yaiser?
I wasn't as generous in this category, I don't think. It was hard to figure out where to go. I think a lot of it had to do with, and not really telling me, and also everything looking kind of the same in the first couple levels, at least. And then I thought it was kind of hard to control when you're in combat, if you found someone to be in combat with. But I like, you had all your grappling hook, your little shuriken stars. Those are cool. But I don't know. It was a little bit tough to play for me. I landed on a 2.
Landed on a 2.
Yes.
All right. So I landed on a 3. I do agree that certain parts are, especially at the beginning, the training section, I became very frustrated because I had no idea where to go. Like unless like you already know where to go, it's very, very annoying trying to find out where you're supposed to go to end like the training portion. Once I got out of the training portion, I found myself enjoying the game much more. But the training portion to me was just like, oh, you had to climb up on this, like you had to like grapple hook on top of this house, and then like grapple hook across this onto this cliff, and then climb up and go up to the house where the guy was like chilling. And I was like, man, I wish they kind of like showed you where you were supposed to go to end the training. That would have been nice, because I think I probably spent like 30 to 45 minutes just trying to figure out how to get out of there, which was rough. But I don't know, Yaiser, what difficulty did you play this on?
I think I left it on normal.
I played it on easy, and I didn't know if that was something that kind of hindered my experience, because I barely ever ran into people to fight, and I was like, maybe I should have put it on normal or something, because I'm not really running into people. The second level, I think I was like, you know what, this isn't that bad, but again, I wish there was more people to fight, because I felt like whenever I was just like trying to find somebody to fight the whole time. I landed on a 3 for gameplay. I don't know if I said that already, but I landed on a 3 for gameplay. I think the worst part about it for me was just the fact that it wasn't like as linear as it could have been. Like, I wish it was more just like, hey, you go here and then you go there and then you go here and then you go there kind of thing. I did like all the things that Yaiser brought up, where you can, they have like a ton of different like weapons, I guess. And like they have one of the funniest things that I saw was a hold on, I wrote it down here. Poison rice that you can throw in front of guards and make them eat, which I thought was pretty cool. So just like some different stuff like that, like different items, I thought was pretty cool. So I definitely see the allure in this game. Coming from somebody who's never played it before, I found it didn't really like grip me like I wanted it to. Like, I wanted to just be like, I wanted to like love it immediately. And unfortunately I didn't get that from it. But the tank controls are kind of rough, I think. I don't know. Me and Yaiser, we've kind of been notorious for not being a huge fan of tank controls, but it's kind of a product of the time, though. You know what I mean? Like, a ton of these games, just, the Resident Evil, Silent Hills, and all that stuff. It's all tank controls, and some people swear by them. Like, I know, like a lot of like Resident Evil like purists, I guess if you want to call them that, they don't like anything past like Nemesis or whatever, because that's when like the tank controls died. So, Amber, what did you give gameplay?
I think I'd have to agree with you. I would give it a 3, just because I have like more experience playing the game. The controls are quite difficult. I know back then that was just all you knew.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I have gone back and tried to play it, and I'm just like, this is proving to be extremely difficult. So I totally get that. I love all the items and stuff like that. It is kind of hard, though, like you said, to find out like where you're supposed to go. I know that gives you like tips in the beginning of your mission that tell you what you're supposed to do and stuff. But like after that, you're just kind of like left on your own, and you just have to kind of make your way through like your little indicator in the corner of the screen that tells you like how far away an enemy is. You just kind of have to explore until you find that next person.
Right.
And especially, I don't know if you guys got to the level where you have to do stealth only, where you literally cannot be seen by one enemy.
I didn't, but I'm glad I didn't, because I'm so bad at those games. We just got done playing Metal Gear Solid for the Game Boy Color, and
yeah,
I mean, it's not as bad in those games for sure, where like, you know, if you're seen, you can still like progress through the level and stuff like that. But yeah, I probably would have. I'm so bad at stealth. I'm terrible, because I just want to rush through the game and just beat up everybody. Oh, but not to interrupt, but I do want to add on that point that this game does reward you for being stealthy. If you sneak up on somebody and you hit them, they die once, or they die with like one hit, rather than if you meet them face to face, it takes way more to kill them, which I thought was a really, actually a really cool addition to the gameplay. But go ahead, Amber. Sorry.
Right. Plus, in addition to that, like at the end of the level, you get a rating. So depending on, you know, how many civilians saw you, or if you know, how many people you did stealth kills versus regular kills, stuff like that. But yeah, it might have changed your mind a little bit on the game overall if you'd gotten to the stealth only levels, where you have to actually, you cannot progress unless you get through that level without being seen. But I like the challenge. You know, you feel good afterwards after you've accomplished something that was a bit more difficult.
For sure.
But overall, there was like a good variation. I believe there's like an escort mission later as well. So like there's a good variation of different levels and gameplay modes that you can do. So yeah, I think a solid 3 is what I would give it.
Yeah, I think that's really fair.
That's fair.
All right, Amber, why don't you kick us off with visuals?
As far as visuals go, a lot of the levels, like Yaiser said, kind of like look like they repeated themselves. Like a lot of the elements were repeated, and a lot of like the levels were very dark, so you couldn't see a whole lot. I think they could have done a little bit more with that. But as far as like the CGI and like the cutscenes go, I think they did an excellent job telling the story and just like conveying emotions and stuff, which really tied you into the game itself. So I think if I had to give that a rating, I would give that like a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'll piggyback off your answer here. I 100% agree about the cutscenes. I think the cutscenes are great. Even so, there's like some like cinematic cutscenes, and then there's also like, I guess, like gameplay quality cutscenes as well.
Yeah.
Both are done really, really well. I do think that this unfortunately suffers from the whole early 3D generation of like just awkward 3D graphics. So I'm not gonna say the visuals look, you know, fantastic or anything like that. I noticed some rendering problems. I'm not gonna dock it for that though, because I'm not sure if that was the emulator that I was using, because I don't own this game. I mean, I totally own the game. I was just emulating it for convenience. But I used an emulator, and I wasn't sure if the rendering was due to that, or if that's actually a thing. Amber, can you speak on the rendering? Like, does that happen a lot?
I didn't really notice too many issues personally, and I never emulate games, so like,
gotcha.
I'm not familiar with that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes,
it would make sense for it to be the emulation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So I brought it up just in case it is a thing that happens with the game, but I didn't dock it any points because I wasn't entirely sure. Yeah. But overall, I felt like the environments, you know, they are kind of. It just seems like everything kind of looked the same. There weren't really any like huge landmarks that made anything stand out. Even like the houses looked so similar that I'm like, wait, is this the house that I'm supposed to go into to end this training? And I'm like, oh no, it's the one that I forgot. I have to climb up on top of this one. And then, but yeah, so that I felt like was a little obnoxious. I was almost on a 3.5 here, and I ended up landing at a 3. What about you, Yaiser?
Nice. Yeah, I landed on a 3 as well. So it was always like, you know, back in the day when these games were new.
Yep.
It's weird though we thought they looked great back then, though, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, you would get to one of those cinematic cutscenes, and you're like, your mind was blown. I was like, what? How the hell does this like look so good like that? So that's always like the best part of these old, now shitty looking games, but still the cinematics still hold up. They look pretty good. So
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, that's really what saved it for me because, yeah, like you guys already said, but the environments did not look too great, and even the character models weren't that great either. But the cinematics, I think, saved it for me.
The thing that was sorry, Yaiser.
You're good.
I was just going to say the thing that was surprising to me is that this is like a later released PS1 game. So I thought that the graphics would have been like more like improved on being like later in the PS1's lifespan. But I think that was another thing that knocked the visuals down a little bit for me because just comparing it to other PS1 games of the era, I thought it looked a little bit worse than probably it should have. But yeah, so sorry, I interrupted you because I'm rude. Go ahead.
I think I just said I would land it on 3 again. Just repeated myself.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so I mean, as far as visuals go, I don't think that they're definitely not anywhere close to the worst like 3D graphics that we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think we played Silent Hill, and I think the Silent Hill graphics got very similar scores, somewhere between 3 and a 5, or like 3.5, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that these scores are really I don't think that they're really that bad for a PS1 game.
No, I think I scored Silent Hill even lower because I hated the fog.
Yeah, that's true. You did hate the fog. That's funny. I kind of liked the fog, but again, I understand where you're like, dude, it's a cop out, and I'm like, I get it. It's kind of a cop out that they kind of just use that because they couldn't put like that much definition into the graphics back then. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny though what you were saying, how like back then we thought these graphics were like amazing, like the best graphics ever, and then we come back to them. It kind of reminds me of like when we would watch like regular TV before HD channels, and then we would switch to like the HD channel when those finally came out, and then we'd switch back to like standard def, and you're like, dude, I can't even read the score to the baseball game. Like, how is this? Is this really what I was watching it on before?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's rough.
It's crazy. All right, Amber, you want to kick us off for sound here?
So this is definitely going to be like a higher scored area for me because I mean, you saw the opening theme song, like that was pretty amazing. You have to admit that.
Yep.
And just like how you could hear the cicadas like in the bamboo forests and stuff like that just is extremely nostalgic for me. All the cutscenes had really good music. The end song had amazing music. Just all of it was really good. As far as like the fighting mechanic noises go, I mean, those are pretty standard. Nothing too fancy there. But overall, I would have to probably give that a 4 out of 5.
Okay. And this is the part of the show I think where you hate me. I was not a fan of the sound, unfortunately. I do agree. Whenever there was music, I loved the music. I thought the music was great during the menus, during the cutscenes, the opening scene of the game. All that I thought was awesome. You can even see it like in my even like in my playthrough that's going to come out in a few days. I mentioned how awesome the music is during that opening cutscene. But after that, like during the gameplay, there's like no music. And I'm like a big music guy during gameplay because I feel like it helps like make it nostalgic. And I just didn't get any. I felt like the cicadas, while I thought that they were cool initially, being stuck in that training mode for almost an hour, I wanted to murder whatever was making that
Bro,
noise.
the sound of that cicada on top of the frustration of trying to figure out where the fuck you're trying to go. I almost didn't make it past the training level.
That's so funny. Yeah, I unfortunately landed a little bit lower with sound at a 2. But again, I totally understand if the sound of that cicada brings back those nostalgic memories for you, hey, I 100% get it. I know that eventually when we get to Yoshi's Island, I know that sound is going to suffer because of Baby Mario crying, where like for our guest and probably Yaiser, who's never played it before. But for me, the sound of Baby Mario crying is actually nostalgic. So I totally get what you're saying here.
Exactly.
With it just doesn't hit me in that spot because it annoyed me a little bit. But yeah, I landed on a 2 here. What about you, Yaiser?
I I guess it pissed me off a little more than it pissed you off. I gave it a 1.5. That cicada really, really made me angry. To the point where I was emulating on my phone, playing with my Kishi controller, and
Not a sponsor.
I muted my phone. I was like, I can't listen to this thing anymore.
That's so
But
funny.
I do agree about the opening cutscene and the song, and I was like looking forward to like maybe some more cool music, but it just went away. And all
dude, the music was so good.
Fucking bugs.
Yeah.
The music was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just felt so disappointed that once we got to gameplay, I didn't really hear any music, and I was like,
It was all
oh
gone.
man. Yeah, I was really expecting some awesome like action type of like, but then again, it's like, you know, you're supposed to be sneaking around, so I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have played the game that way because I'm not.
There's some sneaky music. There's got to be some kind of sneaky music.
Yeah, music or something. Yeah, throw it in there. It would have been fine. But yeah, so you know, didn't love the sound necessarily. But to Amber's point, there are, you know, I felt like a lot of the actual sound effects, you know, the fighting sound effects and you know, weapons and stuff like that were all good.
Yeah,
it was just that dang cicada, you know. All right, Yaiser, how about you kick off how well this game aged?
Okay, so I will do that. And I'm gonna base it on basically how I struggled with just controlling my guy and these fucking tank controls. Hate it.
Yeah.
All these games get low scores from me.
That's true. You hate tank controls so much.
Graphically, during just regular gameplay, was, you know, it was hard to even figure out what I was looking at times. I feel like, and I think I'm still mad about the cicada too. So, I landed at a 2 for aged. I don't think this one aged very, very well.
Okay. And what about you, Amber?
I actually have to agree. I'm going to go with a 2 as well. Going back and playing the game after, you know, having such fond memories of it, I struggled really hard, honestly, to control my character. I felt like I could barely see, like everything was so dark. You could barely make out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And just the cutscenes and everything, while they were good, just some of the graphics are kind of laughable. You know, it was a little cheesy at times, but it would have to be a solid 2. It's rough to go back. Even if I recommend it to somebody, I'm like, you probably aren't gonna like this right now.
That's funny. I will say, just because I meant to bring this up during sound and I kind of forgot, during the cutscenes, the voice acting's actually pretty good. I will say that the voice acting, especially for the time, because like I said, we played Silent Hill and that is of like comparable quality and time and stuff like that. And Silent Hill's voice acting is so bad in comparison.
It's just cut it together so badly.
Yeah, they did. It was awful. It didn't sound like any of the voice actors were actually talking to each other. Like, no, it literally sounded like they're like, here are lines, just record them, and then we'll like no emotion in any of the lines. No, this voice acting was pretty good, which made me kind of want to bump the sound up a little bit. But I already said it was a 2, and we don't go back and bump it up. So, as far as aged goes, though, I actually agree with you guys. Clean sweep here on a 2 overall for aged. I think tank controls are one thing. Yes, it's kind of aged itself. Just the controls in general, just because like games don't typically do tank controls anymore. So I guess just by definition, it's aged because of that. But also, yeah, the graphics look, you know, not great. And just the lack of direction, I think, is the major thing that aged this game for me. I think if, you know, maybe just some indicators like, hey, the house is up on this hill. Go up there. Go up on that little hill thing and get to that house. That's But again, once I got past the training, I actually found myself enjoying the game much more. So maybe it deserves a second playthrough once you get through that training, because the training is rough. I wish you could skip it too, just because I don't think it really teaches you anything that you couldn't have figured out on your own.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's like, oh, walk into the water until you can't walk anymore, and then it's basically like it's really kind of intuitive the controls when you're swimming and stuff, you're like, okay, this all makes sense. They didn't have to like explain this part to me. They could have explained definitely where to go to end the training, though. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Amber, you're actually a lot lower on this game than I thought you would have been. So I don't feel as bad about not liking it as much as I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought,
but
I was gonna feel bad too.
Yaiser came in the lowest at a 2.4. I came in at a 2.6, and Amber came in at the highest at a 3.3. Would you say this is one of your favorite PS1 games, though?
It is, and I think that's just, it's more like a nostalgia thing for me. And I think you're kind of missing out on like half of the game by not playing the mission editor, because that's what I grew up doing. Like I would make levels that were as hard as humanly possible, and my brother would, you know, spend hours trying to beat them. And so
dope.
like
That is cool. It's
there's
Mario
like
Maker before Mario Maker.
yeah, exactly. And like there were cool like Easter eggs, like you could unlock office levels with office ninjas, and there's just cool like, little things extra that you don't know about when you just do a basic playthrough of the game.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. What's hard too about only having a week or so to play this is we kind of just try to mainstream the game. You know what I mean? We're kind of just like, let's do the main stuff. It's hard to focus on like the side stuff, and we've done that a couple times where actually last episode we were talking about Perfect Dark, and me and Yaiser were like, man, like some of these multiplayer options sound so cool to go back and play. So you know, again, at some point we got to get back and play some of these games multiplayer so we can kind of give it a fair chance in that aspect as well, because really a lot of these games we're kind of just playing the single player versions.
Yeah.
But Yaiser, would you recommend that people go back and relive this game?
I don't think so. I was, you know, when I heard what we were playing, and I never played it before, Googled it, looked it up. It's like, oh shit, this is gonna be dope. I get to fucking sneak around, be a ninja, and just execute people with my katana.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. But it let me down, unfortunately.
Amber, have you played Tenchu 3?
Yeah.
Is that one good?
It is, but you know, obviously I'm a huge fan of the Tenchu series, but yeah, it's a lot better than, you know, graphically and sound wise and all that, and you know, controls wise. So that and Tenchu Z, which had multiplayer, and you could actually like customize your own ninja and stuff like that, and actually go in and fight with other people. I think that was really great, and I'm just, you know, still praying for a remake.
Yeah, I actually saw when I was just looking up some stuff, I saw that a couple of people put out some YouTube videos saying that there is a possible Tenchu remake in the works, and I was like, oh, that's pretty exciting. I know a lot of times when we get these like early 3D kind of games, we tend to always say maybe pass on this playthrough, but play like the remake, because the game itself has a lot of promise. It's unfortunate that it came out during this time period due to the controls and just the visuals and stuff like that just make it really hard to go back and like want to play through the entire thing. But yeah, if it had like a legit remake, I would certainly be interested in playing the game.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer is, you know, if they come out with a remake, or if, you know, the newer versions, go back and play those probably. I would probably pass on Tenchu and Tenchu 2 as long as they're the PS1. This generation of gaming is just so hard to go back and play unless you have nostalgia for it.
Definitely.
What about you, Amber? Would you recommend a friend replaying this game?
Honestly, after going back and replaying it myself, I probably wouldn't. Even though it is one of my favorite games, it just did not age well. The controls are extremely difficult and frustrating. So unless you were in that time, you just don't have the same kind of appreciation for it. But like you said, if there was a remake, I think the whole base story and idea behind the game is excellent. And I can imagine that if they had Mission Editor with everything that we have available today, it would just be absolutely insane. Like everybody could just make these insane levels, and I think it would be incredible.
Yeah, that would be amazing, especially if they had something kind of like what Mario Maker does, where you can go on there, enter a code, and play a buddy's, you know, mission. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else. Now I can't remember what it was. But anyway, now's the part of the show where let's take a guest recommendation. Let's do that now. Do you have a recommendation for us to put on our retro list?
I do. It doesn't have to be like an RPG, or can it be just anything at all?
It can be anything.
Okay. Have you guys played Air Guys?
We have not played it. No.
That's a huge game favorite of mine. And a lot of people have not played Air Guys, but I highly recommend it. There's multiple different modes that you can play through, whether it's like mini games, or there's also a fighter aspect, and then there's a dungeon.
Yeah, so my same buddy that had Legend of Dragoon actually had Air Guys when he was a kid. And I remember watching him play it. I remember watching him play through some of like the mini game stuff. And because Cloud is in that game, right? Cloud from Final Fantasy VII. And I remember thinking like, it's so wild that he's doing like this little mini game stuff with Cloud Strife. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really fun one. I mean, like I said, I've never played it before, but it looks awesome, and I'm definitely excited to put that one on the retro list. Now's the time of the show where we randomize what game we're playing next. You guys ready?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Let's do it. All right. So we have a vertical platformer developed by Naughty Dog, published by Sony Computer Entertainment and Universal Interactive Studios, released on the PS1 in 1996.
God, just nothing is coming to mind.
You want me to give it to you?
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm actually really excited to go back and play this one. I own the trilogy remake or whatever on the Switch. And that one's pretty fun. I'm gonna try to just play the PS1 version though, just because that's kind of what we're doing. And I feel like it'd be kind of hard to like judge like visuals and stuff like that if I play the remake. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and play the I'm gonna play the PS1 version. However, I did play this a ton as a kid. What about you, Yaiser? Did you ever play it as a kid?
A little bit, not a ton, but Batch had it. We played it at Batch's house.
Nice. I remember number 2 being much better, but I'm still excited to give number 1 another shot. What about you, Amber? Did you play it a lot as a kid?
I did play it a lot, and I quite enjoyed it. And I also thought that the remake, they did a really great job with that as well.
Nice. Do you own it on the Switch, or do you own it on like the PS4 or something?
On the Switch.
Nice. Cool. As far as like modern gaming goes, which consoles do you own?
Well, I've got PC, I've got PS5, I've got OLED Switch. I did have a Steam Deck, but I ended up selling it. But I did love it. But yeah, just everything pretty much but Xbox.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like with modern gaming now, I feel like all you really need is like a Nintendo and then one of either the PlayStation or the Xbox, because it's like, and PlayStation is more exclusive, so I totally understand why more people like are just kind of gravitate towards Sony there. Yeah, I just have a Switch and a PC, and Yaiser, you have the same, right? You don't have anything else?
Yeah, I know they're in my PS4, but I don't think that counts.
It doesn't count anymore. No, it counted like 5 years ago, I think, but not anymore.
Well.
All right. Well, Amber, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. I know you're super busy, so thank you for carving out some time to join us today. And one last time, if you want to tell the people where they can find you.
Well, thank you again for having me as well. I really appreciate it. So it's BigModEnergy. You can find me on TikTok. I do like video tutorials, and sometimes I even mod live, like peripherals, handhelds, stuff like that. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter, just pretty much any social media you can find me on.
Perfect. And like I said, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody please go check her out. She does amazing work.
Very cool stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can't wait to get the SP from you.
For sure.
But one last time, guys, Patreon, $2 a month. Just we have a Patreon episode next week. Obviously, that one is Crash Bandicoot, but in another month, we'll have another one. So you guys can start inputting your suggestions on our Patreon for the season finale. Yeah, the season finale is always a Patreon episode. So we're very excited about that. And until next week, see you guys later.
Peace.
Bye.